back, more fraud and abuse exposed as the Environmental Protection Agency reveals President Biden awarded $2 billion buried in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act to a climate group tied to one of his most loyal supporters and friends, former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. The EPA now trying to claw that money back, which is part of a larger $20 billion held at an outside financial institution. The money distributed as part of the $739 billion Inflation Reduction Act that was passed by congressional Democrats and signed into law by President Biden in 2022. Joining me now is the EPA Administrator, Lee Zeldin. EPA Administrator Zeldin, great to have you this morning. Thank you for being here. I want to get your take on what you've been doing this weekend. So let me get to the Stacey Abrams money in a moment. Tell us what you've been able to do just in the last 2 days.
Working with DOGE, we just cut another 21 grants heading towards DEI and environmental justice, saving the American taxpayers another $67 million. This is in our first round of cuts to find these efficiencies. So this partnership with DOGE has been outstanding. We want the EPA to be operating as efficiently as possible and exceptionally accomplishing our mission. We're on track.
Well, let's talk about this outrageous finding that you have had in terms of $2 billion stashed away in the Inflation Reduction Act and sent to Stacey Abrams' linked climate group. Tell me about it.
Maria, this group in 2023 only received $100. This isn't even like it's a long-time group that has some reputation of handling large budgets. They received $2 billion in 2024. On page 1 of the grant agreement, it tells them that they have 21 days to distribute all $2 billion. And on page 7 of the grant agreement, it is giving them 90 days to complete a training called How to Develop a Budget. I would say that any entity that needs training on how to develop a budget shouldn't be actually distributing money before they take that training, and they certainly shouldn't be receiving $2 billion to be distributing that rapidly. What we've seen is a lot of self-dealing, a lot of conflicts of interest, and instead of spending tens of billions of dollars wisely and maintaining accountability and having oversight, instead they were rushing to just, as they said in a December video that was leaked by a Biden EPA political appointee, they were throwing gold bars off the Titanic. We found the gold bars, and we want them back.
Unbelievable. The money is being held at what? Citigroup? Why can't you get your hands on that money and claw it back?
This is something that the Justice Department's been working with Citibank on. There's a financial agent agreement with Treasury, an account control agreement with EPA and the primary recipients in the bank. But this is something that the Justice Department has been asking a lot of questions of us. I appreciate their diligence on behalf of the American taxpayer and working with our agency to ensure that we can reestablish that accountability and oversight over these funds. I had a great conversation last night with the president on the topic, again, with Russ Vought, our new head of the Office of Management and Budget, multiple agencies working to ensure that this funding is not wasted. We're going to go through a process. Unfortunately, Citibank is cooperating with the Justice Department.
So was there criminality here?
That's a question for the Justice Department to answer. I would say that it's a clear-cut case of waste and abuse. The entire scheme, in my opinion, is criminal. I'll give you one other example. There are only 8 primary recipients that received all $20 billion. I told you we're just discussing the Stacey Abrams link one that got $2 billion. The director of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund gave $5 billion to his former employer. So he leaves one of these funds, becomes the director of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, and then gives $5 billion to his former employer. I wish I could tell you that this was the end of it. We're talking about pass-throughs, giving to other entities, many respects, and those are pass-throughs, and the EPA in writing tying our hands behind our back to ensure that we would have as little oversight as possible.
Wow. And you've got tons of rules and regulations that were put into effect under the Biden administration as it hid all of its regulations behind the whole cloud of environmental issues, right? I mean, at the EPA, how much cutting are you doing in terms of rules and regulations throughout government, by the way, not just the EPA?
President Trump campaigned on this. The American public spoke loudly and clearly, and the Supreme Court has weighed in too with the Loper Bright case. They don't want, and agencies should not, be coming up with their own interpretations of what law is. We should be following our obligations under the law. We should be respecting the rule of law. We should be advancing cooperative federalism. It's time to go back to the basics to ensure we are delivering clean air, land, and water, but we're also unleashing energy dominance in this country, and we're powering the great American comeback. That's the priority at the EPA under President Trump.
All right, Lee Zeldin, we're watching your work. EPA Administrator, thanks very much for being here. We so appreciate it.